I Am the Specialist of the Strange, written by Dakota Frandsen, narrated by Douglas MacArthur, published by Bald and Bonkers Network LLC. Section 7, Becoming the Specialist, Part 1. November 24th, 2017. Remains of Bash censored found 3 weeks ago. I did. Leak not has not been made public. Censored. Turns out it belongs to a 2-year-old missing persons case from a nearby county. Female, early 20s. Reward money might be available. I may need to help dig into this under the circumstances. November 25th, 2017. Officially on investigation of censored located key details on events leading up to her death. First priority is to find the rest of her. I can't shake the idea of censored from my mind, so I'm officially taking the case. I did a little background on the victim and was able to find a timeline of events leading up to the initial investigation. It appears 2 suspects are already in line, one being an ex-boyfriend who fathered the lady's baby that didn't live past a month, and the other being a new fiancé who is currently serving time for drug charges and evading police. According to news reports, there was an altercation between the 2 gentlemen beforehand because the ex tried to convince her not to move in with new fiancé. Further investigation already done revealed the victim's clothes were found at a spot in censored. I have a few ideas, but nothing can be proved without censored. November 26, 2017. I had a possible communication with the victim through dream state vision. It's looking like the spirit trying to make contact since the remains were found. Guy who killed her already in prison. Must find censored. November 28, 2017. Scrying for censored. Barely turning up anything. I'm getting more and more of a bad feeling. This is something more than just a love triangle turned fatal. December 2nd, 2017. There was a shooting just moments before I pulled into the parking lot at my workplace. State police had set up a drug bust that had gone wrong, hoping to add more charged, being that my workplace was across the street from one of the local high schools. One suspect attempted to run into the store to try hiding from police, not realizing the store had started locking its doors at midnight in response to theft. Both suspects apprehended, one shot and wounded by police. December 23, 2017. My aunt shared a voice recording from a psychic session where she claimed to hear my grandfather's voice. Intrigued, I conducted my own audio session and received a message urging me to stop bothering my aunt, eerily reminiscent of my late grandfather's voice. Additionally, another voice emerged, claiming to be that of a missing girl whose skull was recently discovered. She expressed awareness of my search for her and indicated she's been attempting to lead me. December 27th, 2017. The Hitman Request. A woman I was talking with on a dating website mentioned that she lived with abusive parents and would ask if I would kill her parents for her. Obviously, I cut my ties right then and there. Whatever happened with her, I honestly have no idea. Probably for the best that it stays that way. Seriously, how screwed in the head do you have to be to try getting some random guy online to murder your family? I discussed the situation with one of my police contacts and they said they'd look into it. January 24th, 2018. Angel Sigil Experimentation. Using sigils from the book Angelic Sigils, Keys and Calls by Ben Woodcroft, and taking design elements from communication sigils from the Keys of Solomon, I designed a protection sigil I dubbed the Walls of Eden. The power of this thing would not be fully shown until years later. March 19th, 28th, 2018, Earth, Scotland, and Ireland. Trip, Nessie and Crowley. My last trip with my travel group was a tour of Ireland and Scotland. My initial plan was not to go, however I quickly changed my mind upon learning the last stop on the trip was at Loch Ness, a location I always wanted to visit with the hopes of seeing Nessie. Part of my attention was diverted due to being in the middle of a breakup at the time, but overall the trip was amazing. Before the day we rode out to Loch Ness, we visited spots through Ireland and Scotland. I remember brief images of seeing craft in the sky. I would also get views of the landscape, as if I was on board the aforementioned ships. One such instance, I was taken above the waters of Loch Ness days before our group made the official trip and was shown the high concentrations of quartz in the region. When we got to the loch, my eyes never left the water, and to my surprise, a large aquatic animal breached the surface as it was trying to avoid a black speedboat. I did my best to capture photos, with only two showing the large object in the water, but nothing that clearly defined what it was. I reported my sighting to the Loch Ness registry when we got back to the hotel, and the story started to go a bit viral as I was on the plane ride home. I also came to learn that I may have had supernatural assistance from my great-grandmother, who passed from old age roughly an hour before my arrival at Loch Ness. The following pages will show up close potential photos of Nessie. It was the best I could get under the circumstances, but regardless of supernatural assistant or not, getting something on the first attempt, when others can go decades with nothing to show for it, is impressive. The ordeal managed to capture the attention of producers for a National Geographic special called Drain the Oceans. While getting ready to leave Loch Ness, we caught a view of Aleister Crowley's house, where I swore I could see a cloaked figure watching us. For lack of better word, the figure looked similar to a KKK member cloak. If that was Mr. Crowley, I'd be more intrigued to explore this without children hanging about me. December 2018. After a YouTube channel called Censored, one involving the family of the missing woman, tells a couple incidents involving me, I was reached out to by a gentleman who believed he may be possessed by a large demon dog-like being, one that had him enter a blood contract while in a dream state. What caught my interest was the claim that upon waking from the dream, the client claimed that his hand was completely torn apart as if he just smashed a window. Even more disturbing was the claim of animals behaving oddly, as if they were frightened by an apex predator. The nudges in my gut told me to take this case. Something was genuine. Further developments identified the being as Vapula. All methods to try dealing with the situation remotely were not working. This incident was going to have to require a personal session. Very quickly, it escalated into a violent exorcism that nearly came to spontaneous combustion. The man's skin started to blister as if he was exposed to extreme heat. Eventually, the being broke the connection, escaping the room as a dark mass before proper bindings could be completed. For now, the kid was safe. To this day, I'm not sure what lured this thing to the kid. There weren't signs of drug use, abuse, alcohol, nothing of the sort. Mostly, this was a kid stressed out over college exams. About 2 weeks later, in a dream state, I was presented with a vision of walking through what looked like an abandoned internment camp with several years of overgrowth. As I was walking through it, I could hear a radio playing what sounded like 40s music. I found a room with the radio on the floor and walked in. Immediately, static broke through the music, and I recognized it as something making contact. Towards the back of my head, I felt another transmission trying to break through, warning me that this was a trap. Whoever was coming through the radio didn't seem to register the warning as it continued trying to taunt me. I demanded the being identify itself again, bringing up the cliché, "In the name of Christ," line, and that only pissed it off further. The being jumped out of the radio, wrapping its hands around my throat, growling in a low and raspy voice, "It's Vapula, bitch." The next thing I knew, I was pinned to the wall of my bedroom by my neck by a large shadow mass, and it was squeezing harder. This was no longer a dream. I grabbed at this thing's hand, trying to let myself a few more breaths of air. Its skin felt like the leather of a manged animal. I managed to mutter the words, "Michael, help now!" I could see this thing's face looking up at the ceiling in fear. The next thing I knew, there was light shooting out of my eyes and mouth. Valpula just let out this huge squeal, similar to a herd of pigs being slaughtered at once. I quickly lost consciousness. The next morning, I woke up on the floor and went to go outside to run out the garbage. My neighbor approached me, asking what the